Oh my God, I got stuff flying out of the pan. I'm acting like I never cooked before. So, when I think of the waiting season, I think of basically just waiting on God's promise and waiting on what you desire in your heart, but it hasn't come to fruition yet. And for me, I would say my waiting season looks like waiting on marriage and waiting on children and even like financial blessings. And I feel like I'm at a point in my life. We're gonna go ahead and chop these carrots up. Just gonna do like a cut. I don't use like exact measurements. I kind of just cook with my heart, but I like to get rid of these like ugly ends on the carrots and then go from there. So for me, I think my struggle is just kind of accepting the waiting season, and it's also accepting that there's a lot of growth that I have to do before I come into the promise that God has for me. And I am at a point now where I've accepted, hey, the reason why you're still, waiting for X, Y, and Z, it's because you have a lot more room to grow. And it's patience. It's not putting up walls when people try to get close to me or I try to get close to other people. And I think that that's something that I've always struggled with, just putting up walls. And even like my own family, like, I it took me a long time to develop solid relationships with some of my family members because I always had this fear of, once I kind of let somebody in and see the real me, that they'll run away and they'll reject me. So for me, it was kind of easier to basically just push someone away before they had the chance to walk away. And that's something that I struggled with pretty much since childhood. And, as the psychologist or a therapist would tell you, like a lot of the issues that we have to deal with in adulthood come from the things that we were exposed to or the things that we had to endure in childhood. And, that fear of abandonment. I don't think I'm going to use this carrot, but if I do need it, I'll just pull it right back out. So I'm going to dice these up and then get rid of the butt ends because I don't want that. And quick side topic, the last time I made bolognese, now I'm not a professional chef. So if you're watching this video, you're going to be like, what the F is she doing with that knife? But you do what works for you. I'm going to do what works for me. So anyways, I'm just going to dice these up. But yeah, back to the subject matter of the video. um, I think that I, I definitely recognize that a lot of, the issues that I struggled with in childhood, they do tend to come up, in adulthood. And the fear of abandonment is a big one. And the fear of having to see like somebody you love walk away is, a huge insecurity and a huge fear of mine because it takes a lot for me to trust somebody. It takes a lot for me to be vulnerable and allow people to see the real me. And, throughout childhood, I kind of, was always the odd one out, like, or the one that stuck out like a sore thumb. And um, growing up in a environment where there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me, and there wasn't, too many people that I could relate to, um, it made it hard for me to feel comfortable in my own skin. And I carried that through middle school, high school, college, and even into adulthood, when I started working like a real 9 to 5. And it's something that I recognize has held me back from a lot of potential, relationships or friendships. And it's something that I'm, praying that God um, gives me the tools and gives me the opportunities to overcome that. And, for anyone watching that's struggling with that too, like, I pray that, you are able to kind of do that self reflection and do the work that you need to, and recognize, those experiences that have kind of, you know, um, caused you to basically get in your own way. And, um, fear that people that come into your life, they're going to wind up leaving you. And that's not the case. Like, everyone that you meet is not, they don't have ill intentions, and, they're not going to, just come into your life because they want something from you. And, I feel like because of those, uh, um, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? I feel like because of that, I would say, I guess, unhealthy attachment style that I had, with not allowing like the right people to get close to me. I kind of, as human beings, like, we want companionship, we want relationships. And so I ended up trying to find validation and find, I guess, uh, companionship in the wrong places. And I ended up basically manifesting my fears and, winding up with got people, mostly men, people that, they just wanted me for um, all the wrong reasons. And I wanted somebody to validate me and somebody to make me feel beautiful and make me feel worthy. And, because I could never find that in relationships, I always felt like there was this void, that I never could fill until I, really began to learn more about God. And, you know, really, I guess, learning to trust God, and also learning to trust that there is somebody out there that cares for you. The biggest one being God, Jesus. But also, that He's bringing people into your life, whether it be family or whether it be, friends or whatever. He's bringing people into your life that, truly do have your best interest at heart, and truly do want to see you succeed, and truly do want you to become the best version of yourself. And, when you push those people away, when you just push everyone away because you feel like it's better to be alone than to be heartbroken, it's like a wall, like, it'll keep the bad stuff out, but it'll also keep the good stuff out. And nobody wants to be alone. So, recognizing that you have to be willing to put down those walls to let love in is kind of the first step to overcoming that that barrier and overcoming that insecurity, and basically like kind of breaking a generational curse in a way, because I feel like um, carrying that fear of people leaving, that's not just something that, kind of just shows up. It's almost something that we see too in childhood. We see like people that we grow up with, they kind of, push people away, and we learn how to treat people by how we see the people that we grow up with, or the people that we're exposed to in our environment treat people, and you carry that with you. So recognizing that just because that's how things were doesn't mean that's how they always will be is, a great first step to setting yourself free. And so I think this is chopped up enough. I'm trying to get this chopped up as fine as possible, because the last time I made bolognese, I didn't realize. Now, I just read the recipe online. Like, I wasn't like I watched like somebody, actually cook it. So when I read that you have to chop the carrots, they were like some big old chunks. And with bolognese, you want that sauce to be as smooth as possible. So, dicing them up, is going to help you achieve that. But I mean, it still tasted good, but it wasn't, that nice, rich, smooth sauce that, we all love. If you like bolognese, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, you want it to be chopped up as finely as possible. And then you also want to have a really good knife, like a nice sharp knife, to help you get that really nice shredded or chopped up minced that chopped up minced vegetable. So I'm just going to finish chopping these up, and then we'll move on to the celery. All right, so now we have the carrots chopped up. So now we're going to do the celery, and it's going to be about the same amount, a cup. Now, again, I don't use, why can't I talk? I don't use like measurements or anything. I kind of just eyeball it and see if that looks good. I think maybe one more. I'm trying to get rid of the celery because I don't like celery, and I am actually allergic to it when it's raw. So I'm just trying to use this because if I don't, it's gonna go bad, and then I'm just gonna have to throw it away. And I don't like to do that because I feel like I'm wasting my money, and nobody likes to waste money. Ugh, I'm making such a mess. So we're just gonna chop this up. So yeah, back to the subject matter of the video. Yeah, so just recognizing that you have those kind of unhealthy attachment styles, and that's why a lot of your relationships have had roadblocks is the first part of healing. The next part, at least for me, is getting close to God and allowing him to heal you from the inside out. And for me, that looked like basically just realizing that I am who God says I am, and that's, a daughter of Christ, somebody that is beautifully and wonderfully made. And even though I had never met anyone that, I think this might be too much, even though I had never met anyone that made me feel that way, beautifully and wonderfully made, like a child of God, like all the things that, we praise and we sing about in church. Like, even though I had never, like, truly understood that and been able to have that really instilled in my life, it didn't mean that it wasn't still true. Just because I didn't know it didn't mean it wasn't true. And so, as I, started getting closer to God, and that came with kind of just, I guess, a curiosity, like growing up, like my grandparents and stuff, they would take us to church, and, we would, hear about God. And, like we always said that like we were Christians. But it wasn't like, we were kind of like, it wasn't consistent. Like there wasn't a lot of consistency. And, I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like you don't really start your walk with God until you kind of, are able to really understand what it is that, you're learning about, and who God is, and who you are to God, and your place in the world. And I think that just kind of comes with becoming older, and kind of wanting to find yourself and trying to find your identity. And that was a huge thing for me. Like I felt so lost and so insecure because I spent so much time trying to please other people. I spent so much time trying to find myself in people and find myself in things. I'm not saying I like did drugs and, was out running on the streets and, committing crimes or whatever. But, I almost tried to like emulate other people. Girl, I tried to like emulate other people's behavior and, try to fit in. And I never felt like I did fit in. And the reason is because I wasn't created to fit in, and neither were you. You're not created to fit in. God created you to be exactly the way you are. And the more you try to hide it and the more you try to deny it, it's just going to make you feel more and more upset, on the inside, because you're never going to be satisfied with who you are. You're always going to, look for things to change your appearance or make you happy. And you're never going to really be content until you just accept who you were meant to be. And accepting who you were meant to be, that looks like a cut, comes with letting go of what people tell you you should be and who people tell you you should be. And I'm still learning that today. Like just because I'm making this video does not mean I have all the answers. Don't get it twisted. But I feel like I'm at a place where I recognize that God created me to be different, and that's okay. And I like myself, and I like being able to say at this point that I like myself and I like who I am. All right, so now we're gonna chop the onions. And if you hate chopping onions, you are not alone, because I hate it too. But a little hack to kind of make it a little less awful, so you don't end up crying while you're cutting onions, put the onion in the refrigerator before you cut it. So this onion has been in the refrigerator for a little while, but you could probably just stick it in there for maybe like a few hours, and that should help. Trust me, it helps. But I know people say like growing fresh onions like in your garden, you know, it is also a great way to reduce the tears, because for some reason fresh onions, like fresh onions that came out the garden, they don't really do that. And I guess the ones that have been sitting there in the store, it's, I don't know what the reasoning is, but people say that like fresh garden grown onions don't really make you cry. So, but if you're like me and you buy your onions from the grocery store, just stick it in the fridge. So, yeah, back to the subject matter of the video. Yeah, just accepting like who you are is what's going to make you happy. And accepting that it's okay to be different and it's okay to be unique is what's going to make you shine. And for me, like I used to say to myself all the time, like, there's only one Aaliyah like me in the world. God created me, Aaliyah, for a reason. God created me to have all of my quirks, all of my flaws, all of my differences, all of the things that make me stand out and not fit in with the rest of the world is what makes me special. And the more I try to hide the beauty of who God created me to be, is what's going to make that void larger, because I am not in alignment with who I truly am. I'm trying to basically become somebody else. And if you are trying to live somebody else's life, or emulate somebody else's character, you're never going to be happy, because you're not being authentic. You're not living the life that God has ordained you to live. You're not being who God has created you to be. So because you're not in step with God, you just have this void in you. And not just because you don't have a relationship with God, but because you don't have a relationship with yourself. And that is so important with, learning to love yourself, taking the time to really understand, what you want, not just what people tell you should want, but like, what do you want? What makes you happy? What makes you get out of bed, and what lights your fire? For me, that's helping people and encouraging people and inspiring people. And I think that's what, drew me to YouTube, and, being able to be creative and have creative license to do things the way I want to do them, and to having something that I can call my own, and getting comfortable with myself. Getting filming yourself on camera is like nerve-wracking, because you have to watch yourself and you have to edit the video. But it also takes a lot of courage, and having courage, doing things that, previously made you feel like you weren't good enough or you weren't qualified, doing it anyways, that's what builds confidence. And the type of marriage that I want requires confidence. It requires doing things even when you are afraid. And I want to attract somebody that's confident and is not afraid of themselves. And when you are not afraid of yourself, you're not afraid of other people, in the sense that, you don't have this fear that, everyone's going to wind up leaving you, because you're comfortable with yourself. You recognize, I am enough, I am beautiful, and I deserve love. And so, when people come into your life and, they want to give you love, you're not going to be so quick to run away, because you have a relationship with yourself. You've accepted who you are and what you deserve, and you'll be more likely to accept, opportunities with people who want to love you and support you, and it'll be easier. It's all coming together. Amen. So, when I think about the waiting season, I think about the importance of catching up with who you are supposed to be before God even brings that relationship that you're praying for into your life. You have to wait on becoming the person that you need to be, on sorting through that emotional baggage, on working out that inner enemy that has constantly held you back, on rejecting those ideas and those ideologies that have been placed on you by the world, and coming into alignment with the goodness of God, really, and coming into alignment with what it means to, walk with God, and coming into alignment with who you are, like who you truly are, and loving that and accepting that and practicing gratitude with that.
And when you can practice gratitude with yourself, you can practice gratitude with anything. And you won't take it for granted. You won't take your spouse for granted. You won't take your job for granted. You won't take your children for granted. You won't take your house for granted. You won't take anything for granted. So don't take yourself for granted. And that's how you can learn to just love yourself unconditionally. One, by having a relationship with God, and two, by practicing gratitude with yourself. Thank you that I am the way that I am. And thank you that there's not another person that's like me. There might be, other people that might have might have similar interest, might look similar to me, but they're not me. And I am so happy with that because, there's so many people in this world pretending to be somebody else, trying to fit into a box that society has created. And it's just such a waste of time, you know, with God creating you and the billions of people on this earth, and people just trying to be something that they're not. There's so many people that are trying to be other people and trying to emulate other people's stories and other people's um, basically just trying to be other people. And why not just decide to be yourself and stand out? And you would be it. I promise you, you'll just set yourself free. You'll experience, true happiness with yourself when you realize that I don't need to be like the world. I just need to be me. So I think that for me, part of the waiting season is one, learning to love myself, but also taking care of myself. And also, I had to understand that I am worthy of love. I'm worthy of the desires of my heart. I mean, if God has placed a desire in your heart, it's not to tease you, it's not to make you feel like it's not attainable and it's not for you, or it's for other people, but it's not for somebody like you. No, that's a lie straight from the pits of hell. If God has placed a desire in your heart, it's because He wants that for you. That is in His will for you to have that. It's in His will for you to be happy. It's in His will for you to thrive. You know, I don't know the exact scripture, but Jeremiah 29:11. I think, for I know the plans I have for you, plans for you to prosper, plans to help you, not to harm you. I'm probably butchering that, but you get the gist. God wants you to be successful. He wants you to thrive. And anything that you have gone through, anything that you have experienced, it's not to make you feel like, that's all there is for you, struggle and obstacles. No, it's to prepare you for something better, or to equip you for something better. I think of David, the story of David and how he even became king, and how before he even faced Goliath, he was in obscurity. He was somebody that people weren't even expecting to do anything with his life. He was, out in the fields tending to sheep, and he was put there because he was kind of like the runt of the family. Nobody really thought of David when it came to um, to anything really. And when Samuel came to the house, I think it's the house of Jesse. Hopefully that's right. When he came to the house and he was looking at the brothers, and he was like, "Isn't there anybody else that is qualified or that I can anoint, because y'all ain't it?" And David was just out in the field, taking care, doing his thing. And when he was anointed, it was just a shock to everyone, because how can this shepherd boy be a king? How can somebody like that be in a position like that? How can somebody that just tends sheep all the time possibly even, stand the chance of running a country? Like, no way, Jose. But little did they know, when no one was looking, David was being prepared, whether he knew it or not. David was being prepared. And when the bear came and David took it down, and the lion came and David took it down, little did he know, everything that he had gone through was for the big moment that would put David on the map, that would make him famous. The story that everyone knows in the Bible, the story of David and Goliath. David was being prepared in obscurity with the lion and the bear, and being um, considered like the underdog, and being considered somebody that wouldn't amount to anything. That worked in his favor, because when no one was looking, he was getting prepared, and he was content with who he was. He wasn't sitting in the fields like, ah, damn this, like, I gotta tend these stupid sheep again. And when challenges arose in his life, he didn't run. He didn't call on somebody else and said, "Hey, there's a bear here. Can somebody take care of this? There's a lion here. Can somebody take care of this?" No, he was like, "Well, here I am. This is my job, to protect these sheep. So let me take care of the problem so that it doesn't attack what I'm protecting." And he did it. I'm sure he was scared, but he did it. And when the opportunity came for him to attack, take down Goliath, it wasn't anything different than him taking down the lion and him taking down the bear. The only difference is that now people were watching, and people were watching, you know, witnessing who David had evolved into. Instead of being somebody that they thought was a wimp that just took care of sheep all the time, no, this is somebody that is bold and courageous, and knows that God is on his side, and knows that God has gone before him to win this battle. And because he carried that in his heart, he won. And so, in the same way, the waiting period and feeling like you're not seen and feeling like you're in obscurity, it's all important. Everything you are going through is important. God has put you into that position for such a time as this. Like, it may seem like it's not amounting to anything, but I promise you it is. And in 5, 10, 15 years, you'll look back and be like, okay, now I get it. But in the meantime, practice gratitude. Practice looking around at your life, looking around at the people in your life that God has blessed you with. And even if you don't have anyone in your life, that's okay. It's not going to be that way forever. Any season that you're going through, it's not going to be forever. It's going to be okay. And it's going to provide you with the strength that you need to come across your next season, to come across the moment that is going to catapult you into who the position that God has for you, whether that's a wife, a husband, um, whatever the case may be, a CEO, the president of the United States, like whatever you are striving towards, there are things that you have to go through first before you can even get there. And that is the waiting season. And it's not like the waiting season is just you sitting on the couch twiddling your thumbs and being like, hey, okay, God, I've been waiting. Like, when is it going to happen? No, there's preparation that happens in the waiting season. Okay, there is preparation that has to take place within you before God can move you to the next level. And you'll know when you enter into the next level because things will start to look different. Things will start to, you'll feel that shift. And it's hard to explain what that shift is going to look like because it will vary depending on your situation. But you'll start to see things change and you'll feel that change within yourself first. You'll feel almost like there's kind of like a shift in the atmosphere. Like just something is about to change and change your life. And it's going to be beautiful. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you more than words can describe. I am so thankful to, start to build this channel and to post more videos and to share my walk with God and, to build a community where other people feel comfortable with doing that too. And I just thank you so much for being here. And I pray that you just use your waiting season productively, and don't forget that that desire that God has placed in your heart, it will come to pass, it will come to fruition. But don't lose faith, because all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord, but also for the good of those that have faith in God's promises and trust in God's promises. And one thing that I wanted to mention is don't do things out of God's timing. If God is not bringing something into your life, it's for a reason. So don't go out of your way to do things outside of God's timing because it will blow up in your face. I promise you, I'm speaking from experience. And one thing that I have never forgotten is a quote from Pastor Touré Roberts. And he said, when it's you, it's forced. When it's God, it flows. I want the relationships that I'm trying to cultivate to flourish. I want it to flow. I don't want it to be forced because forced relationships, they're not fun and they don't last and they don't have fruit. You want the relationships that you have to bear fruit, and you want a healthy relationship for your children to see and to model. And if you don't have children, you want something beautiful that other people can model. The enemy is after marriage because marriage is beautiful. It's not easy, but it's beautiful. And it's something that God has designed. So if more people are in alignment with God's design, then we can set the world on fire. And the enemy, oh, he's gonna get nervous when you start moving in alignment with God. So be prepared for those attacks. But I said all that to say, again, thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate you. I love you. Go with God. I pray that you have protection over you and your family, and I pray for your waiting season to that you have protection in your waiting season and that you aren't strayed off the path that God has put you on. And if you are, God, I pray that you will correct them. So anyways, thank you again. My name is Aaliyah and my channel is Aaliyah316, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Thank you so much.